Today I am in Dayton, Tennessee. Now I've been here a few times before to take some pictures. It's a little tiny historic downtown, 4 or 5 blocks. Once you've walked it, you've walked it. There's not a whole lot here. So a lot of you probably have no earthly idea about Dayton, Tennessee. But for those of you in the United States of a certain age or older, if I were to say the Scopes monkey trial, you would probably know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've ever watched the movie Inherit the Wind about the Scopes monkey trial, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It happened right here. Dayton was originally founded, I think, in about 1820, and by about 1920, most of the industry had left, and the town was really suffering financially. And so in 1925, the Tennessee legislature passed a bill called the Butler Act, which made it illegal in Tennessee schools to teach anything that contradicted the creation concept of how we came to be. And the people of Dayton, the business leaders of Dayton, hatched a plan. Because they thought if they could challenge that law, that it would bring in the press, it would bring in onlookers, it would bring in people from both sides of the argument, and Dayton could make a lot of money. And so those business leaders approached a young man, I think he was about 24 at the time. He was a science teacher at the local school by the name of John Scopes. And they asked him if he would be willing to be charged with teaching evolution. There is little to no evidence that he ever actually taught evolution. But they wanted to challenge the law, and they wanted to bring in money to the town. And so he agreed. And you probably know that the attorney for the prosecution was William Jennings Bryant, who was a Bible-thumping, fire and brimstone preacher, as well as an attorney. And for the defense, the ACLU brought in Clarence Darrow, who was probably the most famous attorney in the country at the time. And they settled into this court. One of the linchpin times of the court, and it's perfectly portrayed in the movie Inherit the Wind, is when Clarence Darrow called the prosecution attorney, William Jennings Bryant, to the stand as an expert on the Bible. How you doing?
Trying to get out of your...
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. I know, I can cut all that out. And so this conversation began about whether to interpret the Bible literally or figuratively. And it's a fascinating movie. If you've never seen Inherit the Wind, I strongly encourage you to watch this. You say, well, Tim, what brought you to Dayton to do this? It's about an hour, almost an hour from home. Well, that trial took place in 1925, and it's 2025. It's been 100 years. Now, the outcome of the trial is pretty simple. Scopes was found guilty. I think it took the jury maybe like 15 seconds. This is Dayton, Tennessee. But he was found guilty, and then on appeal, the appellate court upheld the law. They upheld the Butler Act as constitutional, but they dismissed the conviction on a technicality, which meant there was no more appeals to be had. And so up until 1967, the Butler Act was the law of the land for Tennessee educators. So as a former educator and a former minister, the Scopes monkey trial has always had a huge fascination for me. Now, I'm not going to take you around town much. I showed you a few clips there at the beginning of the video. But inside, there is a museum dedicated to the Scopes monkey trial. And in the times that I've been here, I've never been inside. So let's go inside today and see what is there.